All right, folks. Well, good afternoon and welcome to today's Merit Moment. For those of you that haven't met me, my name is JB Howard. I'm a wealth strategist and owner of Merit Advisors located in Westerville, Ohio, just outside of Columbus. Today, we get the great pleasure of talking with a friend of ours, Nick Fiorilli. First of all, Nick, welcome. So glad you could make it today. Thanks for the time.
Thanks, JB. I'm glad to be on here. I'm excited to talk about health and wellness today.
Fantastic. Well, so you're going to have to suffer through this first part. I'm going to have to talk a little bit about you, where you've been, and just a little bit of an intro with that. So bear with me, Nick.
All right.
All right. So may come as a surprise to you, but we've been working together and been friends for almost 10 years. You know, just looking back through the calendar and doing some math, it's been almost 10 years. I'd say we've got a little bit of a unique relationship considering we met when you were a young attorney. You know, at that time, for the rest of you, Nick helped coach our financial planning clients, specifically business owners, families, and individuals with their legal strategies and ultimately legal documents. Our relationship today, if we could fast forward, is less concentrated on his legal talents and clearly more focused on his nutrition and fitness coaching, which brings us here today. So Nick owns and operates the 1808 CrossFit Gym, or box as it's called, in Mount Vernon, Ohio. Several mornings a week, Nick, or one of his coaches, leads my wife, Krista, and I, and probably 10 or 11 other faithful members through our hour-long workouts. We tend to do those at about 6:15. We've got a great crew, great community. Our group ranges in age, ranges in ability from high school athletes to mid-40s, like myself and Krista, and several other members of the gym that float in and out at or even beyond 70 years old. Even with those age groups and those varying abilities, we cover everything from Olympic lifting to pull-ups and push-ups. So the most complex to the simplest of all things. Wouldn't you agree, Nick?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So Nick and his team are actively working with, one of the things we're most exciting about is what they're working with Krista right now. They're working with her from a nutritional standpoint, without dragging you through the whole story. And clearly this is something Nick's going to talk about today. But in short, they found she wasn't eating enough or enough of the correct foods to accomplish her goals. So over the past several months, she's eating more food than she's ever eaten before, while decreasing body fat, her overall weight, and increasing healthy muscle. So incredibly motivated from her standpoint. She's tracking things, feeling better than she's ever had before, sleeping better, more energy, and really getting a lot out of not just the workouts, but also, you know, the fuel that we put into our bodies. And again, clearly a lot of what Nick's going to share with us today. So in addition to his daily coaching and operating 1808, Nick's married to the lovely Katie, and together they're raising 2 young boys. Now, with all of this I've already outlined, somehow our friend Nick finds the time to function still as an attorney. He's advising and consulting in the areas of small business with a specialization in the fitness industry, especially with other CrossFit gyms, along while always helping out friends, family, and people in his network with real estate, estate planning, just overall administration, probate, contract review, drafting, that type of thing. So Nick, I'm done with your intro. Okay. Clearly I could have continued. I didn't even touch on your athlete status as a college baseball player and a frequent CrossFit competitor, right? If you want to get into that, you certainly can. But if I could, I'm going to make an attempt to shift the focus on what you might be able to share today. Okay. So, you know, of all the areas we could focus on, here's kind of our thoughts for people nearing retirement or already in retirement. One of the goals is very simply to stay healthy and active. That's why we brought you on, you know, for the interview for our time today. You're clearly an expert in my eyes and in our community's eyes. So if we could do this, could we net it down to 3 of your top suggestions that you might have for staying physically active and we don't say golden years anymore, right? I think, you know, retirement's taken on a different light. I think 3 tips for staying physically active in the years leading up to and the years in retirement.
Yeah, right. And again, thanks for having me on, JB. I know
Oh,
you
wow.
mentioned me as maybe an expert. I don't see myself as that, and I'm only 36, so I'm not yet near retirement, but it's not like I'm not thinking about it. And the way I kind of viewed this was, to answer your question, the top three things to kind of stay physically active as we get older and approach that retirement time in our life where we want to really be free and be able to do what we really want to do. And I think to stay physically active, I think the number one thing for me, this has nothing to do with being physically active, is it's prioritizing good nutrition and healthy nutrition habits to allow us to, I say, maintain a healthy weight so that we can still be physically active um, as we get older. The second thing would be, now we're getting into more physically active stuff, is people, I think, just generally need to move more. Like, not necessarily
Sure.
exercise intentionally, but can we get up and walk more, do more things around the house, and just be physically active in that regard? Because it can have a lot more value than people think, especially in today's world where it's not uncommon to be working behind a desk. A lot more people working from home, so we can be very sedentary, outside of maybe any exercise we might do. And so there's a lot of value in moving more and just staying active that way. Um, so I really encourage people to do or be more intentional with that kind of thing, just to stay active in that regard. Because the more we sit, the more we want to keep sitting, probably, and it makes it harder
That
to stay active.
that makes sense. Yeah. Those habits are hard to break,
They,
whether
they are. They are. And the final thing would be, I wrote down here my notes: be strong. Like, like, the stronger we are, both physically and mentally, the
yeah.
the better off we are going to be into our later years, especially from the physical side of things. The less we move, the weaker we probably become, and the
Yep.
more susceptible we become to injury, and that's going to prevent us from being able to do the things we want to do in our golden years, if you will. Um, and so finding some sort of way to incorporate some strength training, whether it's, just even lighter dumbbell work or resistance work on machines, something that can help keep our muscles strong, our bones strong, and just feel good, right? So, nutrition, walk more, and then try to find a way to maintain some strength as we age are kind of the top three that I can really think that are most important.
That's fantastic. I mean, it sounds simple enough. I think what I also hear you saying is, there's varying levels of activity you can be involved with, and whether it's everything from just working into your schedule, whenever you have that available, whether it's that walking, it's that hiking, it's some mild, it's body weight, it's everything from that and a whole broad spectrum to maybe end up with, some form of a CrossFit box or a CrossFit workout. And even then, that doesn't have to be as challenging, maybe, as we see on television, right? We're not, the version that I'm involved with your coaching isn't the version that's on ESPN, right? And so, there's ways to modify, manipulate that so that it meets your fitness level, start where you are and build from there. We've really enjoyed that.
And that is the purpose. You have to start kind of where you're at and look to build from there, and just kind of see it as this continual journey, and you're just along for the ride, and you should enjoy it as you're doing it. Otherwise, you're not going to stick with it.
No, if we did, if Krista and I didn't enjoy what we were doing and the people we're doing it with at 6:15, it would be a lot harder to wake up, if not impossible to wake up at 5:15 and make it there. So thanks for what you've put together. That's a great community. Along the lines of being physically active, everyone's always talking about how crucial nutrition is, vital to our health, and you just mentioned it. But it's a little bit like the financial services or the financial planning world. There's all these mixed messages. There's so much information. It's hard to fight through everything and figure out what's reality, what is and what isn't. What is a healthy diet, right? And so clearly, as I mentioned in the intro, and you just mentioned in one of the top three, you work on and focus on nutrition with your clients, for those that are willing to take that next step and really, get some gains. So in that area, what are some maybe top three suggestions for actually incorporating nutrition into the diet of someone who's in retirement now, and their life's changed, right? They've transitioned, they're on the go. they don't necessarily have kids at home to feed, and that sit down family meal isn't as obvious. They're spending more time traveling, doing the things they've always wanted to do, maybe visiting with family that are across the country. And the bottom line is they're just not cooking as at home as much. Any thoughts there, or suggestions?
Yeah, I give this one a lot of thought when this question came through in the email, and it's like, how can we incorporate better daily nutritional habits, not just into retirement, but probably on a daily basis for everybody. And I think three things that kind of stand out for me, and it has nothing to do with like you should eat these foods at these times and this and that.
Okay.
It's more about like the surrounding aspects that go into what we eat and how we approach that. And so the number one thing that I always encourage with people is to just be more mindful and aware of what we're doing on a daily basis. And this is a practice that we have to, bring to every day, because we eat food every day. And if we're not mindful about what we're doing in the moment, then it's very easy for stuff to get away from us. And I think maybe as we approach retirement, we have a little bit more freedom and flexibility that could easily stray the wrong way for us.
Sure. Yeah. Overindulge, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's very easy to do. Hey, now we're eating out at restaurants more, and it's very easy to overdo it. So if we bring this level of practice of mindfulness to our daily routine, which is going to be the next part of this thing, it's asking questions like, how do I feel about the food choices that I'm consistently making? And more importantly, how do these foods make me feel?
Yes.
Long term? And food is something that we should get enjoyment out of and nourishment. It's not something that we should look to, that gives us guilt and we feel shame because we ate a particular item of food. If you live life like that, that's a
miserable.
Yeah, it's very miserable. Like, we should enjoy the food and we should get the most out of it, so long as it keeps in line with what we're trying to achieve physically and whatever our goals might be.
Sure.
The second thing that outside of mindfulness would be trying to find a routine for yourself. I think when people get into retirement, they were so regimented with like how their work schedule, and they did this and that, and all of that is gone. And it's like, what do I do?
The structure's been removed.
Exactly. The structure's been removed. So it's hard to find consistency and stability there. So it could take some time to really work through, my day's pretty flexible now. I can do whatever I want. Here's what I want to actually do. And I'm going to be intentional about creating this routine for myself, which can bring that structure back. And then the third thing would be kind of planning a little bit more. You talk about retirement. People just don't get to the retire where they want to be by winging it. It takes intentional planning on years after years. So, if we are more mindful about what we're doing, we can create this routine for ourselves and have a plan in place. You can feel pretty good about what you're doing in retirement, and hopefully continue that on well into your 60s, 70s, and 80s, and feel good about what it is you're doing and where you're at physically and just health overall.
I really like and appreciate that. I can see the correlation between what we both do, right? I mean, oftentimes we talk to clients and ask them, how they feel, quite frankly, about picturing this reality where they spend all of their working years planning, plotting, researching, putting strategies in place, getting their legal work taken care of, and building this beautiful plan. But in doing so, spending so much time working and focusing on their career that their health is deteriorated to such a degree that it's hard to turn back, the hands of time at that point. And so starting to, incorporate some of what you're describing, whether it's nutrition, whether it's movement now, and making it a priority so that your goal can be to live healthy, accomplish your set some goals, some things that you want to accomplish physically, and I know you're the same way, but for me, it's always been, gosh, if I'm going to run, I need to book a half marathon. If I'm going to, if I'm going to make sure and make it into your CrossFit gym 3 or 4 times a week, I need to book a mountain bike race in June so that I know I've got something I'm working towards. So setting some goals, I would think, would be helpful. And I think the intentionality, your first point had to do with paying attention to what you're eating. I mean, what do you think? I know you've got Krista doing this. How valuable do you think a food log is? Just we just consume things and don't even think about it. That there's got to be some value there. We think that we would relate that to a budget. Where's your money going? In other words, what are you putting in your body?
That's a great analogy. The budget thing is great. I mean, so there's a lot of talk in the nutrition world, like, do calories matter? Do they not? And I'll answer that straight up. They absolutely do matter.
Yeah.
Because they can add up pretty quickly when we start getting away from being mindful of eating more nutritious and wholesome foods. And it's just part of today's society where fast food is like super convenient, super cheap.
Yeah.
But if you do take the time to actually go to those restaurants' websites and look at their everything from a caloric or nutrition standpoint is on their websites, you can see how quickly things can add up there. Even things that you would think are healthy, that stuff can really add up if you make that same thing at home in your kitchen. And so food logs are great for bringing more awareness to what we're doing. Even if we think we're being healthy, be objective about it. How can we put it down on paper and be like, here's what I'm doing, and it's either working for me or it's not. And then make some adjustments based on the feedback that you're getting, as long as we're being objective about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to get too off topic, but I can remember, we all have habits. I had habits here in the office, going. Clearly I've got a beautiful wife, makes me breakfast. She packs a lunch for me. I go home and I've got dinner. I mean, I'm blessed and incredibly grateful for that. But sitting here in the office, there's always a snack cabinet. I'm letting out the secrets. For those of you who come and visit us in the office, we've got a snack cabinet. So, Susan and Leanne always keep that packed. And so I found myself 2 or 3 times a day, just not even thinking about it, grabbing some spicy peanuts or grabbing some cashews, half a handful or more, and continuing to roll. And I know when you and I came together and started working on nutrition, that was a real eye opener. Just how many calories, it's not that it was bad food, it's just how many calories, hundreds upon hundreds of calories, I was adding to everything else I was doing. So that log helped us identify that.
Absolutely, because you can still overdo it with healthy foods. It's a lot harder to do,
Sure.
but you can still eat healthy, but still at the end of the day, maybe take in too much for what you actually need. And it goes back to earlier we said, people being more sedentary, we're not as active as we used to be. So we have to be even more mindful of our nutritional habits to align with what we're doing.
Fantastic. So 2-part question here. And I know, because I've seen it, I kind of know the answer to the question, but have you seen retirees benefit from the time they've spent at the gym, at CrossFit, at 1808? I know some people, watching this or watching on a replay might say, gosh, retirees in a CrossFit gym, how does that even, how do those two things even come together? But, because I know in general, some people, I know at least even before I started so many years ago, people might shy away from exercise like CrossFit. They've got bad knees, or they've done a hip replacement. They've got something that in their mind prevents them from being active. And they just know they need to modify it pretty drastically. So, I mean, have you seen, we'll just say older clients and retirees really benefit from what you do there?
Yeah, not to toot our own horns at 1808, but we do. I mean, anybody that comes to our gym, we try to get a history of like what their exercise history was like, and any injuries that they might have faced. And I want to give you two examples here of clients that I've worked with, at least one of them personally. And one of them is Elaine Benedict, and she's in her early 50s, almost mid 50s, but came into our gym on a free Saturday class where we knew nothing about her. She just dropped in with her daughter, and we had jump roping and running, 2 things that she could not do that day.
Oh, okay.
Couldn't do them because she had her prior history of injury, broken her back, and broken her hip.
Okay.
A sledding accident, and slipped on some ice. And so she didn't have the strength to do the impact for the jumping and the running. But to my surprise, the next week she signed up for our fundamentals. We went through our intro classes, and then for a year straight, her and I worked in personal training sessions 2 days a week, and she would mix in some of our classes. And here we are almost 2 years later. She's down about 40 pounds and stronger than ever. And
excellent.
And it was her really just commitment to herself to want to do it and not limit herself from a mindset of, well, I broke my back and my hip, I can't do this. it was like, I'm going to do what I can and work around it. And eventually now she's jumping rope, doing double unders, which is a pretty advanced skill.
Yeah, one that I don't have, by the way. Yes.
And so it's just, it was her mindset coming in saying, I want to do this. And, I don't know, I've never really truly asked her, but I think I know why she did it. But it was her why that was really strong that got her in there and kept her in there. And now she's got her husband coming in there, which is amazing. So that's one just hands-on experience that I had with her.
Huh.
And then I got a message about 2 or 3 months ago from a guy that he's not at our gym right now, but we started. He's a retiree. He's retired, a retired teacher. And he messaged me saying that he has concerns about coming into the gym and really just not being able to do things, cranky knees, things like that. And just concerns about getting up out of a chair, which is a daily function, right? And,
Sure.
the things that we helped him go through, he said he caught 13 innings of a softball game in a squat. And he was able to do that with his cranky knees, but they were stronger. And he was just really appreciative of, us being able to work with him on a regular basis to modify things, to still let him get around, gain some strength. And, here he is catching 13 innings of a softball game. And he's in his mid 60s, I believe, so, or almost close to 70. And so it was just really cool to get messages like that, seeing that even in a short time, it was able to have for him. And so, we see the benefits on a regular basis. It's really, can we get more people to get in there and
it's just getting that message out, and the more of those examples that permeate through the community, the better understanding they have. I know you and I have to laugh, right? So you and I had a conversation an hour or so ago, getting ready for this call and giving really talking through what we might be able to share today. And I had my own story, right? So JB, where have you been the last 2 weeks? I'm normally in there 3-4 mornings a week, and I haven't been around in 2 weeks. A little bit of bicep tendonitis, and just the thought of having to come in and modify was a turnoff for me, because that's the way my brain's wired. I just want to be able to do everything. And you didn't get on my case, but you just encouraged me to show up tomorrow morning. You're going to be teaching the class and we're going to make changes. So it was just a great example of meeting each of us where we are and making those changes. It's more important to move. It's more important to be doing something. It doesn't have to be perfect. And that was just a good reminder, even for me.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I expect to see you tomorrow morning at 6:15.
That's great. That's great. Well, everybody else in the class now is going to have a feel for that too. So thank you. Broad brush. Any other inspiration really for those of us walking around, working towards retirement, to help us keep our motivation up and really just this overarching goal of staying healthy and active? After all, that's what it's all about, especially in these COVID times with, face to face with the pandemic, our mortality. We're really starting to see how important it is to have strong bodies and strong immune systems. Any inspiration for those of us out there today looking to stay healthy and active?
Yeah, I guess, it with the pandemic hitting and is lasting as long as it has, it kind of brought to the forefront how valuable our health is. And, some of us, people get COVID, they are, the symptoms are mild and not too much, but then there's people in hospitals on ventilators, people dying from this. And, I think the statistics are showing that those that are more susceptible to it already have some underlying health conditions. And those underlying health conditions are majority of the time lifestyle factors that we have control over. So if there's one thing to kind of sit back and maybe look at the bigger picture is, we can make the change if we decide to make the change. It's really ultimately up to us. And the things that we have within our control, if we can continue to remind ourselves of what we have control over. And, the number one thing is our mindset. We have to actually believe that we can do it and start then taking action in relation to those beliefs. But if we say it's too hard, I can't do it, then we're not going to actually take the first step. So we have to keep in mind, we control what goes on up here, and then what goes on up here usually follows after that. So keep in mind what you have control over, which is your mindset, our ability to eat the foods that we choose to eat is completely within our control. Whether we work out or not is within our control. We don't have to necessarily go to a gym. We don't need to.
Sure.
Gyms were shut down across the country worldwide, and people still got workouts in. So we don't need the gyms. It's great to have the extra people and community around you to help keep you motivated. But then, I think people don't get enough sleep either. We're always in this go, go, go.
Yeah. We're reading more and more about that, how important it is.
And then finally, just stress management, trying to reduce stress and, all these things we have control over, despite the fact that we think we might not. But if you can sit back and really look at, what do I control over, and try to keep your focus on those things, just know that other things are going to happen that are outside of our control. How we respond to them completely is on us and our response. And I've learned a lot.
And that's gonna determine the outcome, right? How we respond to those things.
So, and I get that from a guy that I follow. His name is Brian Kite, and I don't know if he's a motivational speaker or something, but he's all around this E plus R equals O, which is event plus a response, which is our response equals this outcome. And it's very powerful when you can step back and view things in that regard. And, so if we stop, I think, putting blame and excuses on other things and start taking more responsibility on our part, I think that's when real change will start to happen. And sometimes that's hard for people to grasp or even hear.
Yeah.
When I coach people, the one thing I like to be is like just truly honest about what's going on. And it may not be what they want to hear in that moment, but they probably need to hear it.
We've had those conversations, even you and I, over the course of the last several years. So thank you for those. And I also have to add that, you follow Brian, I follow his dad, Tim. So that is a great, really life coaching, business coaching, leadership type training. That, you may or may not know, is a big part of what got us through our last Ohio State championship. And working through multiple quarterbacks, it was Tim Kite and that E plus R equals O. So I can't agree more. I love it. Love that you're exposed to that, and we're sharing that today. I think the major part of inspiration is consider your goal, consider you want to be healthy, then just take the first steps, and they can be small ones. That's what I hear you saying, and you can always work up to something more aggressive if needed or desired.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's small steps. Most people try to go too aggressive too early and usually burn out. So let's take it one step at a time, and even if it's not the right step, it's still a step. And you keep going. Love
it. Nick, thank you for your time today so very much. I knew it would be valuable, and you proved that to be the case. Thank you for today. Thank you for the positive impact you're having both on our Mount Vernon and now our Merit Moment communities. You're doing a lot of good things. I don't know how much of that feedback you get, but I wanted to make sure and take time today just to thank you everything you're doing, specifically for our family and the rest of the families in Mount Vernon that you really are having a positive impact on. So I know you're busy coaching clients, offering legal advice, raising well-adjusted and future CrossFit athletes, right? At the moment. So truly appreciate the effort, the thought, your really your insight, and I really got a lot out of our time today. Hope everybody else did as well. Nick, thank you.
All right. Thanks again, JB. I always enjoy doing stuff like this. I wish I could do it more often, but
sure.
But I appreciate you reaching out and having me on.
Let's do it again. We got to let everybody know whether I show up tomorrow morning, right?
That's for sure.
All right. Folks, thank you all so much for joining us today. Nick, thank you again, and look forward to seeing you all next week.
All right. Thanks, JB.
Thanks, brother.